Welcome to Shelaborate. I'm Kath.
And I'm Kyra. This is our podcast for the girls, from the girls.
We're telling our stories, hyping up women who inspire us, and shelaborating every step of the way.
It's time to give you the girl talk you've been waiting for. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, Shelaborators.
Welcome to
episode
6. And we have another one of our friends here with us today. We introduced her on our first episode as Lilac. Could you introduce yourself to all of our guests?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Caitlyn, or AKA Lilac. And I brought my buddy here, little Arthur.
Sitting next to her in the studio is her dog, a fluffy gray Keeshond named Arthur that Caitlyn takes almost everywhere with her.
So, real quick, Arthur, his birthday's coming up.
How many years?
He turns 4 in 2 weeks.
Wow, he does. I don't feel like you've had him that long, but simultaneously, I don't remember a life without you and Arthur.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like that's when my life really started. It was honestly kind of when I first met you guys, was right around that time as well.
One thing we really want to hit on this episode is this is our friend that knows literally everybody.
Seriously, everyone.
We will be multiple states away and you'll run into someone randomly that you met from 3 years ago or in the 3rd grade or, something. And it's always a crazy story.
Yeah. So first off, I was born in Michigan, right outside Flint. Second of 4. Great parents, great childhood, moved around a little bit. Not a military brat, but definitely still kind of moved all over the place. Ended up graduating, going to high school in Illinois, a little bit of college. Yep, Illinois.
Illinois, 630, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, so graduated there, went to college for a little bit before I decided to go active duty. I was in the Illinois National Guard first while I was in college. Life happened and it was, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to go full send it, went active duty.
When we talk about the U.S. military, it's easy to lump everything under one umbrella, but there's a big difference between being in the National Guard and being active duty. Active duty is what most people picture when they think of the military. These are full-time soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. It's their career. They live on bases, train regularly, and can be deployed anywhere in the world, often for extended periods of time. Their job is the military, 24/7. The National Guard, on the other hand, is more of a part-time military force that's unique because it serves both the federal and state governments. Guard members usually have civilian jobs or go to school, and they serve part-time, typically 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. But they can be called up for state emergencies like hurricanes or wildfires, and also be deployed overseas by the federal government.
Best decision I made in my life. It didn't really line up with the goals that I had finishing high school, but you guys know, like everyone else here, life's changed and you just adapt and overcome. So decided to go active duty, went straight to Washington State to do that. Previously, I was a military police, so did it, like 9 years in that job, kind of jumped around. One of the cool skills, and I had those communication skills way before the Army as well, just like growing up and making friends throughout, that time period as well. So very much has kind of been my personality throughout my life, is running into people and being like, oh yeah, there's Caitlyn.
Do you think moving around helped you develop some of those communication skills and being able to have to make new friends?
Yes, absolutely. Even young Caitlyn, you kind of just get thrown into these positions, and it was kind of something that I've always just, maybe didn't even realize I learned when I was younger. But especially being the second out of 4, that's still, relatively speaking, a decent amount of siblings. And so,
you gotta learn how to fend for yourself too.
Yes, you do. And so it's just kind of, I jump in, I make friends quickly. And I think it's just because at the end of the day, like, I'm a pretty laid back person. And so one of the things that I, value is being able to meet somebody, and whether you agree with some of their, positions or morals or values or things like that, it's like you can always have a conversation, whether you agree with this person or not. And so it's just being empathetic and understanding about other people and how they live their life. And instead of being like, oh, that's not how I would do it. Well, that's great, but you might be able to learn something from them. When I joined the Army, I got exposed to that even more, because now I'm not just this Midwest girl meeting more Midwest people. Yeah. It's you're in the Army and you're meeting people from all over the world, literally, and being able to, be polite enough and humble enough. And quite honestly, shutting up and listening to people. That's kind of one of the big tricks that I always tell people. It's just like, no, start that conversation. Shut up. 9 times out of 10, people want to talk about themselves to other people. They want to hear heard and felt like they're understood. And so the easiest way to do that is just letting them go.
And something I feel like you really have taught me and like demonstrated over and over again is it's not just about you making friends with other people. I think that everywhere we go, you make people feel so welcome and like so wanted there by doing things like that, genuinely listening to them, caring about their story, that then you make these lifelong friendships out of what for other people would just be like
a casual
interaction. Yeah. And they remember you years later when we go to some random place and they're like, oh my gosh, Caitlyn. So
well, I think also how I look kind of plays into that. I know you guys have talked about it on the podcast, but I'm one of the tall ones too. Okay. Like people meet me and they're like, oh yeah, that tall blonde chick. And it's like, I'm a little bit more than that, but thank you. And that just kind of, yeah, my personality sticks out. I've been told that, my entire life is, I have this tendency to walk into a room and people remember who I am.
Yeah. I think it's
kind of cool.
I think it's because of how you make them feel. You make them feel heard. You make them feel included. Even in our friend group, I think that you are like part of the glue that holds everyone together, because you just really, really, really care about other people and want to make them feel heard.
Well, and I think gender comes into play with this as well, especially in today's time and age. Is like when you go to a bar and you're trying to make friends with people, right? There's always this weird, like, are they flirting with me or not? And I feel like I try to establish very early on, whether I'm talking to a girl or a guy, it's like, no, we're bros. Like there is nothing going on here. Like I'm just interested in knowing who you are. So it's like girl or guy, typically that's my thing. Is like, how do I make this person as comfortable as possible? Mm-hmm. And so they know I'm not, flirting with them. It's like, no, I generally just care about, hey, what is that a good drink? Like, and it's small talk. It's like,
you are the queen of small talk, but it always like evolves into, by the end of the night you'll be like, oh yeah, I know this person's entire life story. I'm invited to 3 weddings and I got to send him a holiday card.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it gets stressful. There's moments that it's legit stressful.
Like taking notes.
Yeah.
Taking notes in the bar. She's like, I just met 18 people. I gotta keep track because they're all going in my phone.
There can be some negatives of being the way that I am.
Like what?
Me trying to just be a genuinely nice person, and then they think that I love them. And it's like, oh, whoa.
Or wait, hold on. I'm not flip flirting. Side. People falling in love with you, which has happened a bunch of times.
It has happened a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean, you are very lovable.
Thank you. Thank
you.
I would say you're very lovable, but that has happened multiple times.
Yep, where it's just, and I guarantee we're probably going to talk about this for, the years that this podcast is going to be on, but boundaries, I think
sometimes we don't always know where to start, but we have gotten better at doing the boundary thing.
Oh, 100%. And like recognizing, when somebody's interested and when somebody is just trying to be genuine.
I still haven't figured it out.
I like to say I do, but no, there's definitely been moments.
What's your advice?
Other than like the boundaries is like having that open conversation and being able to just ask somebody, being like, hey, like I got this vibe. I just wanted to make sure, like, is this a platonic friendship? Or do you genuinely, like, are you interested? Because, like...
But do you love me?
Yeah, but do you love me? I was like, are you going to love bomb me in a week? Because I need to know now so I can mentally prepare.
People aren't gonna admit to that. Yes, I'm going to love bomb you.
They might.
In 1 week time. Oh, really? You've had people be like, yeah, I'm going to love bomb you.
No. I think it's just, like, having those hard conversations and being willing like willing to maybe be embarrassed if the answer isn't what you thought it was, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's really good advice, because I will shy on the side of, oh, this person doesn't like me, because the thought of having that conversation and being like, I'm getting vibes, and they're like, this is my wife, and I'm like, I can't show my face in here ever again.
Well, I think in my case, I feel like especially with men, I think men do this more than women, but like a guy, like I'm just trying to be their friend, right? And they'll be like, oh, she's so cool. Because let's be honest, like I think it's easier for me to make friends with guys just because of my personality. The tomboy side of me, it's like I can talk about hunting, I can talk about fishing, I can talk about all these other weird things that I was exposed to at a young age. And so I can carry those conversations. So they get really excited. And so it's usually with them where I'll get like a vibe and I'll be like, oh, by the way, not my type, but I would love to be friends with you. And that's kind of how you maneuver it, or at least that's my advice. But
I think it's good advice.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And being direct, because then no one's feeling a certain way, and then there's misunderstanding later when it's like kind of too late. It's kind of like if you don't ask someone, you forget someone's name, and there's like a window of time where it's acceptable to re-ask. You're 3 months down the road, it's really awkward to ask someone's name.
So, moral of the story here is whether or not you don't know if someone is flirting with you or if you forget their name, having a direct conversation sooner rather than later is definitely the way to go.
You're in Washington. That's when you were a traffic cop.
Yes, I did traffic investigations for a few years. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's how we kind of got derailed. Is my time as a military police, I got good at communication because I got thrown into these pretty serious, situations in life where I had to be the calm in that situation, being able to recognize the little body quirks that people do when they're uncomfortable, and recognizing that, and then also recognizing the people I work with. I think that was also a skill that isn't necessarily talked about a lot, especially in the law enforcement realm, is like, yes, you're identifying what the people you're responding to these crazy incidents is. For me, it was mostly traffic accidents. So a lot of people are their anxiety is high. It's an element of shock. I've seen shocks, a person going through shock on like various different levels. Yeah. But also, not to bring up something super controversial, but like when you're working in law enforcement, you also have to read, your coworkers and seeing where they are on their level of communication, because I've worked with people who are really bad at it. I don't know how you can be in law enforcement and bad at communication, but, there I was recognizing, so-and-so's getting frustrated. This person's not handling the communication with this individual investigator right now. I need to move that guy somewhere else, grab somebody else, whether it's age, gender, race. Like, it's a common fact that like that brings comfort.
Yeah, or just daily stress. I mean, everyone, especially in like the military, law enforcement, first responders, every human being in those jobs, like, they have bad days or like hit a limit of like, who knows, maybe they didn't get enough sleep or have just other things going on. It's a good nuanced approach to you being able to recognize that. And again, caring about other people and helping them work through that situation.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all human, and every single human has emotions, whether we want to identify the ones that we don't necessarily like about ourselves. They're still there, and like you gotta recognize that, and like you can pick and choose the moments of life where you're bringing up what emotion in the next, depending on the situation you're in. But if you don't get that out, if you don't have a girl gang to be able to go to and communicate your actual emotions and dealing with it,
or have an outlet for your, I think oftentimes people say that emotions are like good or bad, right? Like,
yes.
Emotions are in and of itself neutral. It's kind of how you react and actually act in some of those situations. But
absolutely.
This might be kind of an unpopular opinion. I don't know. Or maybe people don't have an opinion on it. But I actually think negative emotions are super good because they're like that gut feeling that you have, like almost that intuition of when you're like, I know something is not right here. If you just completely ignore all of those negative feelings and you're just like, oh, I put that into category of bad, you are kind of missing out on, I feel like, all of those indicators that your body is giving you, whether it's like someone that you have negative feelings towards, a situation, or like something from the past. Your body is telling you something isn't right. And I feel like it's kind of important to like listen to that. Yeah, you can't freak out about
Fight or
it.
flight.
You know that feeling when something just doesn't feel right? Maybe your stomach drops or you can feel the hair on the back of your neck standing up. That's not just nerves.
That's your intuition. It's your body's response to a situation. Long before your logical brain has a chance to catch up, your body is already scanning the room, picking up subtle cues, and sometimes sensing danger. When stress hits, your brain doesn't stop to ask questions. It just reacts. Heart races, muscles tense, and you either gear up to fight or get the heck out. And that little voice inside, it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper saying, leave now, or don't trust this.
It's your nervous system's early warning system, and learning to listen could be the most powerful form of self-protection you have. Maybe because of her past jobs or her personality, Caitlyn is definitely our friend who will always look out for the rest of the group and make sure we all get home safe at the end of the night.
How many situations as a friend group have we gone into and I start talking to somebody and you guys are like, no, not that one. And like you guys have and I've vice versa, right? Like I have stepped into many interactions that you guys have had throughout, the last, let's say 3.5 years that we've been best friends in this group. Because even though I'm good at it, doesn't mean I may recognize it 100% of the time.
Going from Washington traffic cop,
Yes.
What was your next step?
Korea.
Okay.
Yeah, Korea
Was that a
super
huge
fun.
culture shock? What was that like?
Certain elements of life, yeah. I think that's kind of where I really was out of my comfort zone in certain areas. I will say in that time of my life, the drinking culture in South Korea is rather prominent. So I definitely that was like the first time in my life where like I did drink a lot and was able to learn in my early 20s, both the good and the bad.
The limits, maybe.
The
lack of limits.
The lack of limits as somebody in my early 20s. So I definitely learned a lot of lessons. But that was also the first time I ever lived abroad. And so that's kind of where I learned to love
What
travel.
was your living situation? Did you have to live in barracks or were you, barracks on base?
On base, yeah. So I was up north and everybody in the unit lived in the barracks. Everybody. Whether, commander, first sergeant, all the way down to private. Now, not in the same building per se, and I did jump around depending on my job that I had in there, but for the most part, NCOs and up were in one building and, lower enlisted were in the other. And then all the lieutenants were over there with the NCOs and up, and the rest of the people that worked in the provost marshal office were all in that building. So kind of moved back in, and I started in one, went to the other by the end of Korea. But yeah, that's kind of how it was set up over there.
Caitlyn was stationed at Camp Casey in South Korea. Military barracks are similar to college dorm rooms, and service members are assigned living quarters based off their rank and their unit.
Made a lot of mistakes, early 20s, but also that's where I learned to love to travel. I was able to make actual friends that weren't in the army there. I had my Korean big sister that, she knew my older sister when my older sister had lived in Korea years previously. So I ended up doing a lot of traveling within Korea in general. And it just gave me a love for learning other people's cultures and seeing, those small little towns that, like, in general, your average American isn't going to be able to go without a local taking you to some of these places. So
how did you meet people outside of work to be able to start building those friendships and traveling around?
Mostly through my sister in the case of Korea. She had taught English in Korea for 4 years. She had moved to Hong Kong about 2-3 years before I was stationed there. But as soon as I got to South Korea, she ended up coming and visiting me within, 2-3 months. And she used to have this big run group And so one night I went out to Seoul with my sister and I met all her friends from this running group. And that's kind of how I linked up with a couple of people. And so there was one in particular that, you know, she turned into be my Korean big sister that we still to this day
so cool.
call her that. She calls herself that. And I actually last year I got to go back to South Korea for training and got to spend the day with her and her husband and had an incredible time introducing her to, you know, my team and you know, the other guys that I was doing the exercise with.
Yeah.
And just taking me around to new places.
What advice do you have for someone either living abroad or going abroad where you might not know or have that community from the get-go?
Start the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to start the conversation. I recently got back from a trip not too long ago and, you know, I wanted to learn more about, it was in England, so I wanted to learn more about, you know, Scottish whiskey, Irish whiskey.
This is about to be a classic example of Caitlyn's social butterfly effect.
Because I recently learned about the bourbon, you know, industry here in the U.S. and kind of went down a tunnel hole there and got really interested. So I was like, all right, I want to have a conversation with a local about this because my sister's husband, who is British, knew a little bit, but, you know, wasn't an expert in some of this. And it's like, okay, so we ended up going to this liquor store in this really small seaside town last week. And I like walk in and there's, you know, this older dude. And I was like, perfect. This guy, he's gonna know. It was really uncomfortable at first. He seemed really shy. He was, you know, a group of like 4 people had just walked in the shop. That's kind of a lot, but, you know, showing interest and then kind of using, you know, the fact that people like to teach people things.
What they're passionate about.
Yeah. Obviously, the podcast is called Shelaborate, which is, you know, right, the opposite of mansplaining. But there's an element of like, especially with talking with men, it's like, no, they want to teach you stuff. So it's not necessarily mansplaining when you're genuinely like asking them, can you teach me about this? Because at that point, it's not mansplaining. You're just trying to get information.
Yeah, well, funny that you say that because we're gonna do a whole entire episode about what we think mansplaining
Versus shelaborating.
And I think that is a big part of it is if you go to someone and you want to know about it and you want to know about these things, that I don't think that's mansplaining.
No, absolutely not.
It's the elements of kind of that condescending. You expect me that I not to know this information.
Yep.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, I want to know about your passions. I want to know about you.
Absolutely.
That is shelaborating,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion.
Yes.
Oh, I agree.
I agree 100%. Yeah, it's just remaining to have that humility when talking to people, I think is what's really important. But yeah, that's my advice though, going back to that, is just get through the awkward moments.
Yeah.
They're going to happen. And if it gets to a point where you're like, all right, this person isn't, they ain't got it, they're not interested in having a conversation, then thank them for their time and go find somebody else.
I think a lot of us are similar in the fact that we use humor and that ability to kind of take a serious or maybe awkward situation and just turn it a little bit funny.
Yeah.
That's something I've seen you kind of use.
Absolutely.
And maybe deal with some awkward situations or deal with some uncomfortable, just like, okay, kind of laugh it off.
Yes, 100%. You got to laugh at yourself. Oh my goodness. It's like some of the weird things I've said to people in some of the weirdest situations. I was like, oh, too far, and going back and just being able to backpedal and not be embarrassed. Or, sometimes you just mess it up and you realize that like this person might not like you. And that's okay.
Does that happen to you though? I don't know if I've ever seen an interaction. I mean, sure, awkward interactions. We've all had them, whatever. But I don't know if I've ever seen an interaction where someone just doesn't like you.
Genuinely
Really?
not.
Because Caitlyn, you are like the savant of making friends. Like I can walk in somewhere and be like, I really want to make friends with this person.
Yep.
But I'm like, I don't know if they like me or not. But for you, it is like you start talking to someone within 2 minutes. You guys are best friends.
Yeah. I was like, in a polite, friendly setting, absolutely, it doesn't happen very often. I can't really put a moment where I recognize
it is like a magical talent that you have.
Yeah. I was like, well, kind of.
Yeah. Own it.
Yeah, you guys, like, thanks for blowing my head up a little bit. But no, you're right.
Seriously,
I do need to own it.
It is like an incredible talent that you have.
I do have a good example of when that doesn't happen, though.
When?
Tell me.
So it's usually when we're out as a group, right? And so Poppy's kind of the same way, especially when we're out as a group, where if I see somebody messing with you guys, if I am just not really part of the conversation, I overhear something where someone has said something to my group of friends. I think you guys have also witnessed the very quick switch that I can have when it comes to somebody. I'm feeling that somebody's being rude or coming after my group, because yes, as nice as I am, as good at communication and like building these relationships, I also, just because of prior jobs, I have a really quick switch to you're done, right? And I can go up to somebody who clearly has an issue with one of my people, my group, my girl gang, the people that I hold dear, and I will destroy you. But I also do mostly use humor to handle those situations to make sure that they don't escalate in a way where I do put myself in a situation where I could possibly be arrested. So typically it's like, oh, you do want to fight? And just that, the key, like you make it kind of a joke, and you kind of turn it in on them going, hey, now you are in a position where you have the power to escalate, and it's not me. Where it's just like, hey, did you realize that you are not going to say that to my friend while I'm standing here? And 9 times out of 10, like, the individual is like, oh.
So back to what we were talking about earlier about Caitlyn being our most protective friend. Caitlyn is the true embodiment of a fiercely loyal friend. She's the person you call if you need to bury a body, no questions asked. She's always looking out for the people she cares about, whether she just met you 5 minutes ago or if you've been in her life for years. In another episode, we plan on sharing Caitlyn's battle protecting the girl gang from a vampire.
Most people, I think, aren't used to being called out.
Exactly.
No, I don't think that they are. Yeah. And usually, like, when we hear, if you say something like that, all of us are immediate, like, head turn. Now we are all on the same page of, like, we are not into this.
Plus, sometimes I think it takes if that person is talking to me, sometimes it takes, like, the outside person to be like, hey, that's unacceptable to say to my friend. I'm like, I didn't realize it maybe at the time, but I'm like, you're right. That is unacceptable to say to me.
Yeah.
Don't say that again.
Oh, my God.
Or, like...
Yeah, I was like, there's so many examples. Boogaloo, right? Up in Raleigh, it's a beer fest. There's all these tents. And this one guy, he came up to our little group. He seemed innocent, like no big deal. He had a smile on his face. I even got good vibes. He said a couple of things, and all of a sudden, throughout the conversation, he was like, man, you should probably smile more. And I remember vividly every single one of us instantly turned to this guy and was like, or maybe not, or maybe not, maybe we don't have to do that. And it's just, I think, a valuable thing to learn and to bring back to the girl gang. Like, without this group, I think all of us have, I mean, obviously we had that before, but we have improved, because something I catch versus something you catch might not be something I would have caught to begin with. I remember that point, like all of us turning, but like that, I might not have reacted to that, years previously in my identifying like, hey, that's not okay. And, he instantly apologized. If anything, I thought we taught him a very valuable lesson. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember him being like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Like, that was inappropriate. That was incredibly rude, and I'm so sorry. So luckily for us, there is men out there that sometimes do need that lesson, because they also grew up in the same society we did. Mm-hmm. Right? And so like, we have to identify that, like, yes, we grew up learning this is how men should treat women and vice versa, but same for those guys. Like, they also grew up thinking that that was okay. And I think we need to give them some grace sometimes. Not all of them, because let's be honest, they go too far. But like, there is an element of, there's a group of men out there that are trying to understand how to treat women in a way where, you know, it isn't this weird societal pressure where they have to feel like they're the man and we have to, you know, let them feel a certain way. It's like, no. Like, we grew up in the same society. Like, let's give each other some grace and teach each other.
Yeah, and a key to that, we all make mistakes, and I think one of the biggest attributes of someone's character is how they react to being called out and how they react or maybe change their behavior or things that they say based off being called out.
Absolutely.
Because if that guy was like, no, you should smile more, we would have doubled down.
Oh yeah. I would have been scared for his life.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been good for him.
No, I was like, you ever, God, could you imagine all 6 of us running after somebody down the street? It would be so scary.
It would be quite scary. I don't feel like we would be running after him, but I feel like
it would be like
we would have a very direct conversation that would be very uncomfortable for him.
I think we would surround him in a circle.
Group hug. Do you remember when we were at the baseball game right before you left to go to school, and that guy who was in line just in front of me? Caitlyn and I went to a baseball game, and I just want to highlight this, because this man, phenomenal, like 10 out of 10 response. He was in front of me in the line at a Woodpeckers game, and there in front of him was 2 guys, and in front of those 2 guys were 2 young girls.
Yes.
And 2 teenage-ish guys were like, must have thought these 2 girls were real cute, and so they were making comments about these 2 girls. And I mean, like, pretty inappropriate comments out loud to the point where these girls could hear it. And the guy behind them just tapped them on the shoulder and was like, hey, that's not how you pick up women. You need to be respectful of them.
Yeah.
And he was just like so direct, so short. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to say something. Trying to wrap my head around how am I going to engage these 2 boys, because like this is really inappropriate. They're clearly making these 2 young girls feel very uncomfortable. I need to say something. Yeah. And this guy just like jumped right in and was like, hey, like if you ever want to get with women, you need to be respectful of them. And that is not respectful. And I was like, literally applaud this man. You and I were like, hey man, do you want a beer? Like, we'll buy you a beer. That was incredible.
That's so cool. You love to hear that.
It was awesome.
Here in Shelaborate, we've heard from a couple of the guys who feel like maybe this space isn't for them. And listen, we get it. This podcast was definitely built for the girls. But guys, gentlemen, boys, consider this your open-armed invitation to pull up a chair. You're welcome here too. If you've got a story about an awesome man in your life, someone showing up, sporting the girlies, or just out there being a solid human, send it our way. We love sharing stories like that too. Guys just being good dudes. Let's hear more of them.
So to go back to the original story after Korea.
Okay, now we're at Korea.
Yeah, now we're at Korea.
Where are we next?
So when I was in Korea, I got DA selected for drill sergeant. So basically, for those of you not in the military, that basically means one day I got an email and it was, you're going to go be a drill sergeant. And I was like, oh boy. Actually, no, the real response was, because I was trying to do some other things in the Army at the time. I wanted to go start a really cool program, and that was a lot of my dreams to do in the Army. But unfortunately, because I was selected for drill, I didn't get that opportunity, and I had to wait to go do this program I wanted to do because of this, decision the Army made. But as all of us know, if you're not in the Army, you don't know, there's an element of once you sign the dotted line, some of your life decisions are going to be made for you. And again, it kind of goes back to how you react to it. And I literally sat there and was like, my life. Oh my God. What am I going to do? I remember I had a meeting in the morning that I normally do. It was like a random Wednesday or Thursday. I go back to the office, check my email. I looked at it and was like, great. Closed it. Mind you, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, right? I have barely started working. I grab all my stuff, go downstairs to one of the NCOs that was above me, and I go, hey, this just happened. I'm probably going to need to talk to the command team at some point to just let them know what happened. I know they were CC'd in the email, but I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page on this, because I'm all in, but I'm upset. if you need me, I'm going to be in my room. And I literally took the day, which was funny because, again, my reaction was like, I need a minute. And I went back to my room, you know.
Took a minute.
Took off my uniform.
Took a whole
and I was
day?
like, yep, took a whole day. And I was like, nope, I'm not in the Army right now. I need some time. You know, I went to the gym, ran it out, lifted it out, and was like, I just cannot right now. Because not only did I get that letter, which, don't get me wrong, like, it's a, you know, compliment to be selected for it, 100%. But I needed to take a minute, mostly to mourn the fact that I knew I wasn't going to be able to do this program that I really wanted to do. And it was kind of the goal I wanted to do in the Army. And because of this, I never did get to go do it. Yeah. I just needed to get my head on straight, change my mindset, and jumped into that job after Korea. And holy learning curve was that job.
Can you just describe what being a drill sergeant is for anyone who doesn't know?
Best and easiest way to explain it is, have you ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket?
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, you will speak only when spoken to, and the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand that?
Sir! Yes, sir!
Bull, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Sir! Yes, sir!
If you ladies leave my island, if you survive recruit training, you will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death praying for war.
Maybe like 10 years ago, that was how. Now it's a little bit more, let's just say, politically correct. But there is an element of, you take civilians that want to join the Army, you bring them in, you break them down. It is a very rough 72 hours. You bring them all down to a level where they're equal, because you're getting people from all over the states, a lot of which are not used to be getting yelled at. So you break them down all at the same level, and then throughout basic training, you are slowly building them up and making them a cohesive team at the end of basic, because that's how the Army is.
A drill sergeant is a specially trained non-commissioned officer in the military whose main job is to train new recruits during basic training or boot camp. They're loud, intense, and highly disciplined figures you often see in military movies, barking orders and pushing recruits to their limits. But their role goes much deeper than just yelling. Drill sergeants are responsible for transforming civilians into soldiers. They teach them everything from physical fitness and weapons handling to military customs, discipline, teamwork, and mental toughness. They demand excellence and attention to detail because in combat, those small details can save lives.
So I think that job in particular has really helped and really kind of changed my personality and honestly, like this internal strength that I have had these last few years in general, because it was a job that completely took me out of every comfort zone ever.
Behind the shouting is a clear purpose: to prepare recruits for the real challenges of military life. They instill confidence, resilience, and a sense of duty. And while their methods are strict, many soldiers later credit their drill sergeants as the people who help shape their character and push them to succeed.
Once you get to that, moment of your career, then you're essentially ready to go join a normal unit in the Army and be able to function in a way where they understand that you're not there for yourself. You're there for yourself, but you are also so much more there for the battle buddies to your left and right. And so during basic training, that's essentially the job is civilian to soldier. The reason why it was super hard for me is, as a Midwest kid, as a positive person in general, learning how to be mean in a way where I could bring these people down to a level. So that's kind of the quick fuse that I taught myself, is like the hardest part of that job, because it took me a while. I struggled the first 6 months. It was the hardest thing to have to learn. I felt like I didn't really have a lot of Army experience at that point because I worked in traffic investigations with civilians, that like I had to go back to this mindset of like, you're in the Army now, like you're a soldier first. Not only did I have to like learn how to be a better NCO based off the previous jobs that I had, I then had to learn how to be this person who I was not. I had to go learn how to become an actress and how to be mean to people and have them think it's real. And so the hard part about the job is like the first year or so, it is acting. It is. However, you tend to do this job long enough. And this is where some of the issues kind of came for me, is all of a sudden, after a year or so of this job, the things that were coming out of my mouth, I believed them. And at first you don't, because you're like, it's a job. And it's like, whoa, I have turned into a very negative person. A very, there was so much anger and hatred because, I did 13 cycles in 2.5 years where I was hatted, meaning I had that job position. I was in the unit for 3, but for 2.5 years, my job title was drill sergeant. I wore the hat. I did the job. And so it's just this crazy environment where you kind of lose yourself. And I lost who Caitlyn was. I was only, a drill. And so navigating what parts of that job could I let out Caitlyn a little bit. And what I found was the teaching aspect of the job was where I kind of could let my guard down, bring Caitlyn into it, because I was so passionate about, sharing my experience in the Army, like getting these kids, for lack of a better word, a lot of them are kids. They're 17, 18 years old. They're babies. Preparing them for something that I know from personal experience, you guys know from personal experience, like you're going to go through some shit in the Army. It doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be moments of, I hate this. Just as much as there's moments of, I love this, there's just as many, if not more sometimes, of I hate this. And you have to prepare them for that. And so fortunately, as a drill, I learned that even better of like, I hate this job. I am miserable. I am angry. I am a shadow of the person I was before this job. Like, how is anyone going to ever think that I'm more than this? I got really good at it. Also, one of the skills I got from it is that switch mode. When I finished my job as a drill, I told myself, I was like, I will never yell or belittle or treat somebody the way that I treated these kids, because there was a reason why I did it, and it was necessary, and I recognize that. But getting out of that job, I was like, no, I will never treat somebody and yell at them and do all of this to belittle a person ever again. I think it made me even better at recognizing, like, I can deal with controversial topics or controversy in general in a way where, like, let's think outside the box and try to resolve this without having to do this typical Army way of just yelling. Because quite honestly, in my personal opinion, if you have a leader, especially, at my level and your guys' level, if you have a leader that's yelling at you, I'm sorry, I have zero respect for you as a leader, because you can't properly communicate why you're upset with another adult.
Yeah, you lost me.
You have completely lost me. I was like, to the point of like, if you're going to correct me, you better do it with respect. Even as the lower rank that I am, like, I am still human, and there's an element of like, I deserve for you to mentor me. And to do that, you have to process your emotions before coming and trying to, figure out this controversial issue. So, little rant there, but
No, it was good. I like
that.
Yeah,
it's something that's so frustrating to see as somebody who, like, I strive to be a better leader. That's kind of the whole point of being an NCO in the Army. That's what I want to be.
Caitlyn went to school to become a drill instructor in 2018 and finished her tour in 2021.
I knew at the end of that job, I wanted to do something more. I want to use the valuable tools that I learned as an MP, as a drill, because that is when I did truly recognize for the first time I do have a gift when it comes to communicating. Mm-hmm. And so talking with, friends and family that are in the military as well, doing my current job is my best bet. I literally get to go build relationships for the Army. That's pretty cool. And that brought me here to brag, and that's when I met you guys, and, the rest is history, as they say. Best decision of my life. Not only did it give me a new job in the Army to where it was like I could take a step back and be happy again, because that job really took a toll. And it was my last chance. Honestly, you know, it was this next job is going to hopefully be a good one, because if not, I'm getting out. And in some ways it has, in some ways it hasn't, but that's life. I finally put myself first. I did. And look, like, I made the most incredible support system in an area I actually enjoy, and hopefully will be here for quite some time. And
what are some of the ways that you started to like kind of bring yourself back? We talked about this a little bit with Maya, because she had like sort of a similar experience where job that she was in, she was wearing a mask. She was being who the Army needed her to be at the time. And then she realized this is not it. And I feel like with your drill time, you recognize the importance of being a drill, but it's a short period of time. You're being who the Army needs you to be. And then when you came out of that and now you're in your current job, you're kind of left figuring out, okay, well, who am I now that I'm not this person that the Army needed me to be, this character essentially that the Army needed me to be?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's two answers to that. One, learning it the hard way. The second part of it is like when I moved here and I was trying to kind of get back into the swing of things, figure out who Caitlyn really was again, let go of the anger that I had about, you know, three years of my 20s. 90% of what I did in my life was work. I just worked. That's all I did. My friends, at work. The family that I made in that area, at work. You know, you had to build a support system within that community, but it also was really hard to take a step out of that because everything revolved around this job. So here, I had to really make an effort to like completely separate what I did at work and what I did at home. One of the coolest parts about, you know, moving here was 2 of my cousins lived here. Yeah. And the support that they gave, and just a matter of like, hey, Caitlyn, come over for dinner. And it was like, okay, you know, drive over. That's how I literally found you guys. Honestly, this is a typical Caitlyn story. So my cousin introduced me to a friend of hers, which then introduced me to a friend of hers, which then was like, oh my goodness, you have to meet Poppy. You are going to love her. And then I met her and it was, do you want to play rugby? And I was like, hell yeah. What do you hit people for fun? Yeah. Like, talk about a stress reliever, like perfect. And it's so through that, met her and met you guys after that.
You're in North Carolina. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Caitlyn now.
Oh, geez.
You used to be a traffic investigator, then a drill sergeant,
yeah.
And now you're in North Carolina figuring out who Caitlyn is.
Yeah, different job, different friend group. Different as in I still have all my other friend groups. Don't get me wrong, guys. Shout out to all my other girl gangs that I've had throughout my life. You know who you are. Got Arthur here. I think that's been a big move. Meeting you guys in probably the most perfect time to kind of handle the last 2.5, 3 years of my life. Certain things in life happens, whether it's personal, work, dating, whatever. It's like you're going to have trials and tribulations throughout that. And, you know, 2.5 years ago, I lost the most important person in my life was my dad. And so I bring that up not as like a, you know, feel bad for me kind of thing. I bring it up as that was a huge moment in my life where I realized I needed to make a change. And I never would have had the strength to do that without my group. Even, you know, just like around that time in general, I vividly remember Poppy pulling me aside because we had spent, let's say about a year in this friend group. And she pulled me aside and sat me down and was like, it's time. You need to get some help. Like, we are here for you. Like, but this is your wake up call of like, you're not the same person and I'm worried about you. And so that I think is a really good definition, or at least part of the definition of what makes a group a girl gang is, yeah, you're going to go through the fun moments and the trips and the, you know, little stories that, you know, we think are funny, but no one else, like these inside jokes that we have an element of what I think needs to be added into the definition of what makes a girl gang is that moment of, I've had conversations with each and every one of you where either I'm calling you out or you're calling me out in a way where we build each other up even in our worst possible moments, and I think that is kind of what makes a girl gang. A girl gang is, let's focus on the negative here real quick. Life can be hard, and if I didn't have you guys to kind of walk me through that stage of my life, it would have been a lot harder than what it was. And so, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. And I hope other people can, look back in their life and choose a couple of people in their life that have been there for the lowest of lows. Because I wouldn't have, it's a continuous thing. Grief is crazy, but like, you guys have given me a platform to share who I am and not feel, bad about it. Because let's be honest, with our military background, there's a lot of elements of suck it the hell up that we have internalized. And it's really nice to be like having one of you guys or Poppy being like, hey, I'm not leaving until you tell me what's wrong.
I think it's one of the things that's brought us even closer too is it's not just like, Poppy saying like, hey, I don't think that you're okay, or us kind of like seeing you through that grief of losing your dad. It's you sharing like the little things about your dad. Like,
oh, yeah.
Just sharing little memories like peach rings and Mountain Dew. Like
Code Red, man.
Yeah. Little things like that, which we're seeing you grieving, but you're also opening up to us and like letting us be a part of that and being able to support you, I feel like has brought us closer as friends.
Oh, absolutely.
Because those just aren't things that you would know about someone unless you see them at those lows.
At the lows.
And then you're there for them to be like, okay, let's work through these. What do you need?
Yep. It's like taking care of the internal stuff, but also, making an environment where it's okay to actually spread your wings and like go outside your comfort zone, because at the end of the day, my comfort comes from you guys. So I'm comfortable going outside my comfort zone because that's what we do for each other. It's pretty special. It's really special. And not a lot of people can say that. And I think that's the whole point of the podcast, is spreading this information to those women out there, specifically those women out there who don't have a friend group because they're, apprehensive of what these other women are going to say or do. Let's get rid of that. Like, we're here to support each other. So if you are spending your time knocking other women down, what are you doing? Life's already hard enough. Like, let's build each other up.
Truly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's just having that avenue of being able to express some of those feelings, good or bad. And sometimes hearing it, either just saying it out loud. Sometimes it's hearing your friend say something that you're like, whoa, this is finally clicking for me. Yeah. So just having this platform to say some of those things, hear it out loud and be like, because one of the most, I think, best things about this podcast is like, people are like, whoa, we really related to that episode. And so just being able to share some of those things, like, this was really hard, but this is how we dealt with it.
Yeah.
Was it beautiful all the time? No. It was really ugly. Like,
and really hard.
And really hard. And we didn't do it right all the time, but we figured it out and made it through. And like helped each other out.
And are still figuring it out. We don't have it all figured out.
We do but not have it figured
it's so much better than figuring it out alone, because at least we can laugh about it.
The older we get, the more we realize that nobody really knows what they're doing. And weirdly enough, we find that kind of comforting. When you're constantly surrounded by social media or in environments where showing emotion or struggling is seen as a weakness, it's easy to feel like you're the only one fumbling through it all. But you're not. Seriously. We've all had our chaos, doubts, and moments of, what the heck am I doing? And we're all out here just figuring it out. And if you're wondering, we're probably over here just laughing and crying through it all. Now, let's talk about outfits.
I think you and I are probably the most different
Yes.
In our friend group, but we have a lot of the same hobbies. Like you and I both love gardening. We both love DIY projects, but our style is the
Opposite.
complete
Almost.
opposite.
You, in particular, out of everyone in the group, have single-handedly like pushed my fashion education to the furthest extent. You know, before this girl gang in particular, like fashion has always been something that, you know, growing up as a tomboy, I never really cared about. And it wasn't until I was kind of like older in my 20s that I realized like fashion is a really cool way to express myself and like have fun with something. I just never really figured fashion to be fun up until I kind of met you guys.
Our friend group looks for any excuse to dress up in a theme, help each other do our hair and makeup, and to make a big mess of all of our closets, mixing and matching wild outfits.
There's one story in particular, I literally brought it up, my speech at your wedding. Honestly, being one of your friends is you're going to Goodwill.
The GW.
The GW, as
we
they
call
say.
it the GW here. That's how much
Yeah.
it comes up.
So GW trips, big part of being friends with you. It was just you and I believe, and we go in there and I'm looking at all these shirts. You're looking at all these shirts. You're on one side of the aisle. I'm at the other. Honestly, we should have filmed it. It would have been hysterical. We were basically going back. We were trying to find a shirt for me for whatever, you know, dinner or something we were going to. And you would grab a floral design and like frills and the girliest.
If it doesn't have a puff sleeve, if it doesn't have a ruffle, if it doesn't have
Bows.
an elaborate pattern or bows, I'm probably not sequins, glitter. I'm not picking it up. If it has one of those elements, amazing. If it has multiple, even better.
So like everyone just imagine it was like a fight, honestly. It was like a fight. You would put up a shirt and I'd be like, no.
And I'd be like, okay, we'll try again. It was a challenge to me. It was like a fashion design challenge.
Yep.
And then you would hold up a shirt.
And I'd be like, yes.
And it would be stripes.
every time. And I'm like,
I'm envisioning like you not learning from like all the stuff you're putting up and you not learning from all the stuff that you're putting up. So you're constantly just picking basically the same type of shirt and you guys never like ever meeting in the middle.
That was
No.
Yeah,
what
that
I'm
was
envisioning.
exactly what was happening. To me, every outfit is a costume. It is an opportunity to wear something wild that's fun and it's a way to express yourself, which to me means ribbons, bows, glitter, and hot pink. To you, you were like, that means stripes.
yeah, stripes, plaid, earth tone, jeans. Like I didn't want any bells and whistles that would like make me stick out. I think I was really conscious towards the beginning of this group and, you know, previously in my life, especially my 20s, is like, as a queer woman, I didn't want to dress too masculine or too feminine to like put myself in a situation where somebody is making an assumption about me. I think in my early ages and in my 20s, there was nothing that irritated me more than someone categorizing me when they didn't even know me or based off like my appearance. It drove me absolutely insane. So I still to an element, like I dress comfortable. I want to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so you guys have made this platform in this group and like, you know, given me the space and like the support to be like, you know what? No, I am going to wear this vest or everybody's in a dress. Like stop. Like you can wear a pants. Oh, you know, that reality check of like, why do I feel like I have to wear a dress?
Yeah, I feel like one of the wildest things was like, we are so different, but then over the years of like learning you and like what makes you feel beautiful and comfortable now, like the other day when you had to go to that wedding, I was like, these I know that you'll like, and I'm able to like pick a few things out of my closet, and I was like, these you'll love. You put them on, you were like, yep, it's perfect.
Yeah, every time I go out, I dress myself, right? There's like a theme here, right? I dress myself. I walk up to you guys and I'm basically like, here, fix me. And then
I love
that's
doing
how-
your hair. I love helping people get ready.
Yeah.
It, like, that is my like love language of
It so
love
is.
language.
to
Yeah.
me, getting ready to go out is more fun than going out.
Oh,
Yeah.
completely agree.
Like
100%.
those are like the moments that I genuinely treasure in our friend group.
The fashion element is like, you guys have really pushed me in such a positive way to where now I'm not as self-conscious about the decisions I make. And it's like, wait, be comfortable. Yes. But like, why does it matter?
I also think that being in the military has created this weird sense of we're very aware of the things that we're wearing. And like,
Yes.
I am very self-conscious about what I wear to work. For the
Yes.
exact reason of I want to be comfortable, but I know the clothes that are appropriate at work are not necessarily clothes that make me feel good or comfortable. Yep. But if I wear something that's a little bit more feminine, there's always going to be a comment. So I think
Yes.
it's just kind of getting over and being around people that will kind of like pump you up and support you and get you out of this mindset of these clothes and the decisions that I'm making about things that I'm wearing. It doesn't matter what other people think. It just matters what I'm comfortable in and like things that I think make me look good and happy.
Well, and when you go out as a group, like some of the stuff that we wear out when we go, like if I were to go out by myself, I may or may not feel comfortable wearing that. But you guys and all of us bring that support.
Making a full circle. It also, I think, brings that conversation in, because commenting in a good way, I don't support ever shitting on people for what they're wearing, but like complimenting someone based off what they're wearing, or even just a conversation starter, like, wow, where'd you get your pants? Or like, love your style, girl. That is another way to just bring, I think, a little bit of like the Shelaboration girl gang is just complimenting someone what they're wearing. It makes, I think, you feel good. It makes that person feel good. And it's just a way to like,
Oh yeah.
bring a little bit more happiness in the world.
Just like, damn girl, work it.
I think to wrap up the episode, could you give us your thoughts on how you've become kind of this like friend to everyone and been able to like maintain all of these friendships that you've made all over the world?
Yeah, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like being understanding, right? Like I don't communicate with these people and all my friends around the world every day. I think that's something unique that we learned in the military very early on, is like the friends that I made when I lived in Korea, like I can call them up right now. Have I talked to them recently? No. It's like, it's been a year or so. There's an element of like, thank God we have social media, because we can kind of keep up with those people. In the Army, we call them buddy checks. You get a random phone call from somebody you were stationed with 5 years ago. You answer the phone. Like you stop what you're doing, you answer the phone, and 9 times out of 10, that first thing, hey man, you okay? And if it's yes, you can kind of adjust there and figure out a good time to talk. Or sometimes it's just a matter of putting something down and listening and being there for that person for the 5 minutes. So there is an element to go back to answering the question of mutual understanding, that I may not talk to you, or there might not be a direct message or a direct conversation, but 6 months down the road, if you need me, for a fact, I got you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that I've always, valued and really have made it a priority in my life, to like let these people in my life know that like I got your back. If you need something, please, like I'm a phone call away, I'm a text away. I've recently gotten the habit of randomly sending pictures to my friends that I haven't talked to for very long. And it's like, I don't expect a response back. It's here's some photos, caption it with life update, boom. And it's making that effort to let people know that like I still got their back, and I would do anything for them, because these people did anything for me and continue to do everything for me, and that's pretty cool.
I think that's huge. That's how you have those lasting friendships, that when they see you across the room, they're like, oh my gosh, that's Caitlyn. Yeah. That's someone who like I want to reconnect with, who cares about me.
Yeah, I'm seeing this common theme of just like really showing people that you care about them. Yeah. And that looks different for a lot of people, both giving it and receiving it. But
absolutely.
It's
like
figuring out what
take
that
the
is.
Time.
Yeah.
Take the time to get to know people, because you'd be surprised. People will surprise you every time. Yeah. Well, with that, thanks for having me on.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for being on our show.
It's been a absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for weeks to get up here and to get on the pod.
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime. I'll be here if you need me.
And that wraps up our episode.
Thank you for listening. Check back next week for more episodes. Thanks for listening to Shelaborate. We can't wait to bring you more episodes.
Don't forget to follow, like, and drop us a review. Our episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Patreon.
If you liked the show, post it on your social media and pass it along. Women supporting women is the whole point.
We'll be back next week with more opinions, more stories, and more Shelaboration.
Until then, I'm Kath.
And I'm Kyra. This podcast is for the girls.